Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Khorne led by Sipa facing off against Norsca, who's going to be helmed by Anticity here on Borderlow Landing, and this is the way that Khorne should be played. All heavy metal armor, we've got double Chaos Knights, we've got Chaos Warriors, Cultists, and a badass Harley Davidson Demon here in the front. Now, actually breaking down the build and its competitive relevance, in the front line you do have the Warrior. So Chaos Warriors of Khorne are going to be able to beat most Norscan infantry. They will be able to handle Berserkers with their 110 armor, but they will, downtrade into the Marauder Great Weapons. They will beat them, of course, but they'll take some casualties, and Marauder Champions could also trade well into them. But aside from that, against the other troops, they should be okay. Of course, some counters. Norsca does have things like Mammoths, and Seafang is going to be okay here. You could see Famir coming in and boinking them. Marauder Horsemen throwing axes, if they can avoid the Silver Shields, can also do some good damage. But nonetheless, I love it. They're super, super cool. Now, the Chaos Knights are a bit of a risky pick. These guys do fire damage, which makes them a little bit more relevant than the average Chaos Knight. So Skin Wolves are very meta, right, for anti-large. And the Chaos Knights are going to be able to deal with Skin Wolves, and also they're really good against lightly armored infantry. So we'll see how they can do. Granted, Marauder Horsemen throwing axes, and even still, Skin Wolves will trade okay into them, especially if they have infantry buffering. Famir can also cause them some problems, but I love this build from Sipa. It's so freaking cool. On top of that, we do have Skulltaker. Skulltaker going to be coming in with all of his buffs, and 2 cultists up in the front. Solid, just a cheap silver shielded unit that can sit on an objective and provide 6 capture weight. Now for the Great Anticity here, he is going to be using Wulfric the Wanderer and a Deathcaster. So he does have Spirit Leech, which against Khorne is not as good as other factions, but still is worth taking. And he does also have, Doom and Darkness. So Doom and Darkness is really nice against demonic units. When they're teetering around 15, 20 leadership, you can sometimes get them to go into demonic disintegration and just take a shitload of damage. Really good for finishing off Demon Lords, actually, too. Marauders, Berserkers, and Marauder Horsemen en masse, which is very much an end to thing. Although I think most people who play the Chaos factions almost always bring like 3 Marauder Horsemen, although we're not seeing that from Sipa. Now, he might have been worried that the Norscan Horse Masters or Javelin Throwers would be able to outvalue his throwing axes, which is certainly a very, very warranted fear. As we do see the Skulltaker working in the bushes and Anticity trying to get a little bit of sniping, but Sipa does have some very, very good control. I believe in the last World Championship, Sipa got 2nd place, only losing to Anticity in the Grand Finals. Now, this is actually a replay from our recent World Championship in the round of 16. This is from the series between Sipa and Anticity, which is a really, really good one. We'll be seeing it here on the channel. Chaos Knights with Lances moving up and getting a little bit of support from Skulltaker. They do manage to catch a couple Marauder Horsemen, but the problem is these heavily barded Cav are going to be outrun. Although this guy's, he's really going the distance there. He does actually drag down one homie on the way out. Spirit Leech activated here on the Cultists of Khorne, and it looks like Ent is going to be going for a rotate, probably going to be using the Hunter of Champions to nail this Cultist and try and get a snipe with these Marauder Horsemen throwing axes. So is he going to do it? We do see Wulfric coming over with Lore of Boats. Hunter of Champions activated, so homie's down to 45 armor right now. But should be able to juke and dodge. Sipa has very, very good control here, so I think he is going to be able to avoid most of those. And now Khorne is trying to steal the objective. They have 5, 10, 15, 18, 21 capture weight. Looking at Norsca right now, they do not have that much, but now they do now that Wulfric and more Horsemen have moved on. And the Hellforge Bellowers, which is a good choice. Hellforge Bellowers are pretty awesome. Really good at dealing with skirmishers. Granted, if it gets close like this, a bit of a blunder getting it that close. Throwing axes could perhaps get a lot of HP off it. We're going to have to see. But the Warrior sparked. Anticity still has a swarm of Marauders on here, so he is matching the capture weight of Sipa. And we have a bit of a haggard duel here, as we are going to be seeing the Skulltaker battling it out versus the Shaman Sorcerer. Obviously, Skulltaker will crush him in combat. The Harley Davidson of Doom is going to be going strong. So right here, we see another Spirit Leech activated, trying to snipe the Cultist right there. And Furies being called in to battle the Manticores. And honestly, Furies are going to be really good against Manticores. Manticores have light armor and very, okay melee defense. Furies have high MD or melee attack and hit very, very hard. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the big carry piece for Ent here is for sure his Marauder Horsemen, right? Because without these Marauder Horsemen, these Chaos Knights would just run in and obliterate these Berserkers. And even if there was Skin Wolves guarding them, it still could be okay for the Knights if they had Skulltaker and or a Cultist with them. But the throwing axes are really, really keeping the heavy cavalry honest, because they do a lot of damage. So even if the Chaos Knights charge, they would then be eating, a massive salvo. Although Ent is running a little bit low on ammo on his horsemen. They've been throwing the entire time. Have gotten some okay damage on Skulltaker, the Cultist, and also the Hellforge Bellowers here with a nice little shotgun blast as we comment on it. But yeah, his ammo's running a little bit sparse. Now we do see a Fury unit being baited into the ground, so very well played by Ent. He lands the Manticore on the ground, which is going to be pulling the pursuing Furies onto the ground here, at which point they are going to get swamped most likely. Plenty of Norscans nearby. We got the Sorcerer, we got Wulfric. The boys are all back in town. Chaos Warriors moving up, and we do see Chaos Knights. I like that he's pressing on the outsides of the formation. It's going to make it a little bit harder for the Marauder Horsemen to catch them, together here in the middle. Fury's coming overhead, getting ready to dive on these guys, and Ent is going to be calling in what? We do see Fimir Warriors. The standard Sword and Board Fimir Warriors, even though they're not anti-large, will do okay against Chaos Knights. But Sipa does manage to get the Manticore snipe here, so that Manticore is going to be paying the Troll Toll. A couple Warriors coming up to battle the Marauders. Very well played by Ent, getting the ideal infantry on the ideal enemy infantry. But Skull Taker is going to come in and probably turn the tide of this fight, as those guys going to get bashed up. Nice one, though. Spirit Leech and Hunter of Champions active on the Skull Taker. Fury's trying to dive and cause a little bit of havoc while the Chaos Knights do charge in, but looks like they're going to be trying to refresh their charge bonus right now. Skull Taker does heal in combat, and Fimir and Frost Doggies are on their way in as one Manticore is down. And the fight is now on. Fury's flying overhead. Horseman throwing ammo is almost out. They're all at about 5 or 10%, give or take. And we do see a bit of a sniping attempt coming in as Anticity goes for the kill here on the Skull Taker. Chaos Knights coming in, though, being absolute Giga Chads as they move in and start to flatten some of these Marauders. They're going to be more than up to the task. And the Manticore will also take some damage from the Chaos Knights. But with Wolfric there, a lot of infantry. We're going to see how long these guys can hold up, especially since all the Marauder Horse and Throwing Axes are rotating over here to try and help win this fight. Hellforge Bellower is getting in combat. A bit of a misplay, probably. Those things maybe should have been sitting a little bit further back. But that thing, it's not things, just one. But yeah, might die here. That's a pretty big loss. We do see Ent really, really up in value right now. The Norskins clashing with the Khorne Berserkers in the front line. Not Berserkers, but they're all Berserkers technically. It's the Blood God's realm, right? But the Chaos Warriors are going to be able to defeat the Berserkers, like you can see here. The Hellforge Bellowers does rip one more shot here, and now Khorne is going to be calling in their own Marauder Horsemen. And how are the Chaos Knights looking? Losing heavy models, but cutting through several Marauder units, and nice snipe here by Sipa. Kind of plays you need to get back in the game, taking out the enemy caster. Very, very nice. That is chef's kiss. Khorne Warriors still grinding hard. Bloodletter summons coming out from the Cultist, and the Chaos Knights here are going to be engaging versus the Frost Doggies, and the Norsca Ice Wolves will lose pretty bad against the Chaos Knights. I mean, the Chaos Knights were very beat up and fully surrounded, but even still, despite fighting Fimir and the Frost Doggies, you can see they're trading pretty good. Yeah, two of them right here. Hound units fighting the Chaos Knights, but we do see the Horsemen fight, the Duel of Fates, which is going to favor the Khorne versions. The Khorne Horsemen have really high melee attack, and they're fighting near the Skull Taker, who's going to be giving the Revel and Slaughter and other AoE buffs that he does give. So the Khorne Horsemen getting a nice little pick right there, but Anticity still pretty well up in value here. Khorne Cult is fighting it out. Bloodletter Summon's doing well, and this whole infantry pocket actually went pretty well for the Blood God, but there is a pretty good counter against the Khorne infantry and the Fimir. Fimir are really excellent at boinking down Khorne infantry, and they synergize super well with the dogs too, right? Because the Frostwolves have almost 50 weapon strength, but they don't do really well against armor, but Fimir do have armor sundering, so they're going to be lowering down the armor of their targets very low, allowing the dogs to really, really feast. They're going to let the boy watch for sure. So coming in here, Skull Taker attacking, able to push back the Feral Manscore, but Wolfric, oh man, they just need to get Wolfric armor piercing and be done with it. He just it cannot fight enemy lords well just because he lacks AP. I mean, they did that with Tyrion, they did it with a couple other lords. Chaos Knights, how are they doing? Still hanging in there, about 900 value, not bad. Skull Taker being attacked by Norscan Ice Wolves, but does have some Furies coming in to help. Furies will do okay getting the jump on the 15 armor of the Ice Wolves, but another Ice Wolf coming in. Chaos Knights over here are going to be broken, and we do start to see a lot of Furies coming in from Sipa. Sipa has pulled the value back pretty massively. He was very, very far behind, but he has returned. Pulling his Palpatine. Cultists calling out Bloodletters. Bloodletters do have good AP at least, so they will be able to punch through some of the armor of the Fimir Warriors. Looks like they might be able to break them there, which is pretty clutch. Looking at the objective situation, score is very, very close here, as we do see Objective 3 belonging to Khorne. Objective 2 is going to be belonging to Khorne as well, and these horsemen are going to be retreating away while Chaos Furies dive into the Norscan Ice Wolves there. Looking around in the back objective, nothing's threatening this. Manticore is going to be rallying back here for Anticity, as we do see the Skull Taker just cycle charging, trying to get his fat healing on. So he's just looking for freebies and places where he's not going to be getting hit by javelins, other tools like that. Chaos Warriors, I am a big enjoyer of Chaos Warrior. I think they're one of my favorite infantry units in the game, not just on Khorne, but all the mono or all the god specific and even the undivided Chaos Warriors. I feel like they're really underrated, like the armor and the combat stats. Certainly off meta. Marauders were more popular for a long time, but it's cool to see Sipa bringing these in and putting up a great fight here versus Ents, maybe even going to win this game. It's very, very solid. All right, so Cultists doing it. Skin Wolves are in play. The objective in the middle is going to be flipping. We do now see Forsaken of Khorne coming in, which is kind of neat. I've always heard that people don't like him that much because of their 15 melee defense, but they still do hit very hard. And Skull Taker is going to have to put this game on his back for sure. He is an okay SE fighter, more designed against infantry, obviously, but getting surrounded by Skin Wolves is not his idea of a good time. Anticity getting a very, very nice Hunter of Champions there. Going to be lowering the stats down as the Forsaken do break through the Norscan Ice Wolves. Marauder Horsemen of Khorne are going to be on the way in. And honestly, yeah, we do see double Cultists on the field. Some Chaos Warriors over here. Sipa's looking to be in pretty good shape. This game could for sure go either way. Skin Wolves are chasing. They are on the hunt. They are going. Forsaken ripping and tearing. Skin Wolves are terrible against high DPS infantry. They only have 15 armor and 28 melee defense, so something like Forsaken that has almost 50 melee attack and fire damage is going to be a very, very hard counter against these guys. In the meantime, though, Sipa getting old Skulltaker back in business. Skulltaker's hitting at about 1,000 value, but, you know, a lot of what you get from Skulltaker is his AoE buffs and his insane durability. And, yeah, for a Chariot character, he fights SEs incredibly well. Couple Tattered from here going to be on the way in. Anticity going to be calling in his Marauder Horseman right now, as we do see more Horsemen being called in here for old Sipa. Sipa is going to be using the Skulltaker to chase down Wulfric the Wanderer. Wulfric is shaken and is stirred. 102 leadership. This demon, he didn't hear no. He doesn't know what a bell is, as he continues to bully poor Wulfric. You know, to be expected, I suppose. Forsaken moving in. We'll see though. Maybe when Norsca gets an update, maybe they'll finally give Wulfric some armor piercing, or he's just going to forever be a Lore of Boats caster. And honestly, it's funny because Wulfric is a very meta choice. But to be fair, Norsca has like no choices as it pertains to his lord, right? They've got like Throg and Wulfric. Choose your poison. All right. I bet you Norsca's going to be top tier though. I bet you they're going to be so damn good. So Khorne is in the process of reclaiming the middle. Anticity's army looking raggedy. He calls in another Manticore, probably going to be going for the snipe attempt on the Skulltaker here to see if he can. Fury still swarming, pushing. But the Khornate infantry have really been the story of the day. Those guys have been enduring and grinding and trading very, very well in the back as we do get more Forsaken being called in and Chaos Warhounds of Khorne. So just going to be basic hound units. But yeah, the Norscan army trying to consolidate, get a little bit of strength together, look for some picks and value trade. Ent is very good at doing that. You know, even when he's behind in a game, he's going to try and find little morsels of value that he can squeeze out to get himself back in. And it looks like a Spirit Leech is going to be going down on Skulltaker from the resummoned caster, which did get, I believe, shattered earlier. Skulltaker does have pretty insane spell res, though. 35%, of course, being a Khornate demon, so he's not going to take as much damage as other factions would. And Sipa now is going to be planting his feet on the objectives and saying, come at me, bro. Chaos Warriors probably need to be unsummoned over here. These other Chaos Warriors, you can use them just to kind of, you know, even set on objective 1 or just chase down these throwing axes, waste their ammunition. Now they do have the shields, of course. A couple hounds coming in, not sure where he's going with those. Looks like they're going to be chased by the Manticore, so the big feral Manticore is going to be on its way back in. While the Marauder Horseman throwing axes going to be harrying and keeping things at bay. Skulltaker does still have some room in his healing cap. Now he's a Gore Feast healer, which means he only heals when he's in combat. So when he gets in, grinds with an enemy up close, so that is where he's really, really going to be feasting. Marauder Horseman throwing into the old Shaman Sorcerer of Death. He's trying to juke. But overall, not going to take too much damage. More Furies being called in. Really cool to see Furies being used as like a bit of a soft counter against the Manticore. They seem to trade really well into them. I would assume in a straight-up fight, you know, you would think the Manticore would win, but maybe the Furies do, even for a couple hundred gold less. It's not bad, and they have good dual purpose of being able to chase down the Horseman and different things like that. So a little bit of posturing for the objectives right now as we see Ent building up his army, just going for little freebies. Sipa is trying to surround him a little bit and envelop, looking to get some free picks on the Horseman here, as we do see the points going in the favor now of Khorne. Now, Ent is going to be going for back objective play. The Chaos Warhound's going to be engaging versus the throwing axes here, which is going to be nice for the Hounds considering they have Fury support nearby. And I think that the 2 Fury units will be able to keep these Marauder Horsemen off the back objective. So this is very much a desperation play, going for the back point. But this is going to favor Sipa back here, so the Furies are going to rip those things apart. Now back up to the front, the Giga Chad Cultists of Khorne. They have some pretty dank haircuts, if I remember correctly. Are these the guys that have like, yeah, the 2 like the bald on top with like 2 flat strips of hair? Pretty great. But objective 2 belongs to Khorne. Ent looking for picks. Fury's going to be intercepting here and jumping onto the Norscan Ice Wolves. Curious how that goes one-on-one. The Norscan Ice Wolves are the ones eating the charge, but they do turn around and start to mulch on those Furies. So something to keep an eye on. But the points, going to be 1,200 here soon. This split push here, a bit of a disaster as the Furies and Hounds able to feast, and 3 Horseman units going to be going down. Ent trying to encircle. Maybe look to rotate to the back objective, see how he's kind of circling, just teasing, and then had this gone a little bit better, maybe he rotates back there and goes for it. But overall, don't think that's going to go super well for him. Forsaken moving in, Skulltaker going to be battling it out. He does move in and attacks Wulfric the Wanderer there. Hunter of Champions activated, and Doom and Darkness from Ent. So that potentially lowers the leadership, but Skulltaker has pretty obscene base leadership. I think it's like 80 or 90 base, so it's pretty damn high. Chaos Furies able to actually defeat those Norscan Ice Wolves, but they do disintegrate afterwards. So ends up being a bit of a win for Ent there. And old Skulltaker didn't hear no bell, man. He's just going tooth and nail, just living the good life, living la vida loca here. Chaos Warriors battling it here. Marauder Horsemen throwing axes are being hunted by some Norscan Ice Wolves, but should be able to get away. But at the end of the day, it's rapidly going to become a situation where, you know, homeboy Sipa here is going to be at 1,400 points. And I don't think Ent is going to be able to come back, even if he is able to have some successful fights here. The Forsaken are ripping and tearing. The Manticore is getting taken down. Wolfric is close to breaking. I would expect Ent to probably tap out here soon. And this was game 1 in the best of 3 series between these champions. So very cool stuff. Forsaken ripping it up. Sitting at about 1,300 value. The fire damage and the high DPS are really good against Norsca. Good against the lightly armored infantry, the lightly armored hounds. So I can see the relevance of the Chaos Knights. They did get put in some hard fights, and there was a lot of Norscan tools allocated to them, but I'd be curious to see their value. I would wager the Chaos Knights probably sat around, 1,000 to 1,400 value this game from what I saw. Maybe like 800 on the low end on one of them. We'll have to see. All right, so here comes the Norscan Unga Bunga. A lot of Marauders coming in. They will not have a good time versus Forsaken. The Forsaken of Khorne do, of course, have a 100 armor here, so going to be pretty thick. Chaos Knight's coming back in too. That's really going to seal the deal. That one Chaos Knight could pretty much solo like 2 or 3 of these units. Skulltaker moving in and teasing, but he knows it's over. GG, well played. The Blood God emerging victorious in this extremely sweaty match. And this is how Khorne should be played. This is some badass shit right here, man. I love the Armored Warriors, the Chaos Knights, 900 and 600. So we were close on our estimates. They had some rough fights there, but still, I suppose they served their purpose. Forsaken and Furies, I think, were big MVPs. Sipa had really good targeting with the Furies, and he did come back from some adversity. Losing his ROR Skull Cannon when it still had a lot of ammo was very rough. And yeah, Ent's build is pretty meta stuff, right? Just like Marauder spam, Marauder Horseman, Wolfric, whatever. I mean, Norsca is pretty one-dimensional right now, but still very excited to see what they hold in the future. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. We'll see you on the other side, and that is it for today.